Hello, hello, everybody. Here we are gathering in. I'm going to say hello to us all and then switch us just to me so we can see one another for a minute, and then it'll be sort of easier to watch me, read my lips, all the rest, right? And welcome to this preliminary gathering. I love how every year we do it a little bit different. And for those of you who are new, I want to welcome you. I want to embrace you with this big, glowing circle of love. And really and truly, that's how I feel about what we do here. That's how I felt the very first year that I decided to do this, which was quite a long time ago now. I think we are possibly in our 14th year now. And this is a practice and it is a process. It is a journey. It is a collective. It is a community. It is a time-based experience because the solstice is what it is to you. And so one of the things that I really want to encourage us, just as we begin today, because we're just beginning, we're scratching the surface, we're getting started, is to consider the question, what is the solstice? How do I meet it? What does it bring? How will it illuminate my life? What is the soul light? And those questions really don't have answers. They're not supposed to. It's an opportunity to be in the journey, to consider how the solstice sings and what will arrive within this time frame if you choose to meet the mystery. Because ultimately, for me at least, and I can only speak for myself, the solstice is the mystery of the season. Now, I will say I have a long and strong connection to the solstice and this time of year. My birthday happens during our 12 days. My anniversary happens on the solstice itself. I have a long, deep connection to this time of year. And to me, that is part of why the mythic material is so critical and so important. Such a strong potential exists within the imaginal. And the way we meet the imaginal is through the ability to dream or see beyond ourselves. And so how we move materials, images, maybe talismans or objects, how we engage the creative through the imaginal, how we evoke certain memories or moments, maybe through music, through song, through drum, through evocation. Any of these methodologies are going to be brilliant and beautiful. Some of you are going to stir your soup on a stove. Some of you are going to light a candle flame each night. Some of you are going to rip and tear paper and reconstruct some kind of image. Some of you are going to paint or draw or stitch or sit or dream or soak in a bath or sip some tea. I don't know what your creative will be, but something's going to come through these simple acts of connection. And so too, we are connected in this circle of hundreds of individuals who are gathering to connect to the solstice, to engage their 12 nights And each of our 12 nights is different. We live in different places. We are drawn to different symbols. We understand a different rhythm. We are anchoring our own knowing to a new practice, whether it's new, brand new, or new this year. Each of us is activating a new creative practice. So there's something wonderful just in the gathering and in this time. And I like celebrating the solstice because I love to honor the variety of holy days that have existed for women throughout time, but not necessarily the dogma of certain connections and absolutes. And so I think that the mythic time and the ancestral connection back to the beginning, maybe to seek the messages of the season that are written on your cells, that are stitched into your skin, that are really sort of deep, deep, deep within. And all of the holy days or holidays or solstice nights rituals that you want to include, you can. It's a wonderful option. So we begin. We begin in this time of not knowing. And that truly is the mystery, is not knowing and not necessarily going where you think you should go because it's prescribed or designated or authorized. So what I would love to do is consider what materials might bring to us, what preparing space might offer us, and how moving towards an initiation or a beginning has great purpose. And the 12 nights begins on the 9th. Traditionally, in my world, the 12 nights begins on the 9th, but occasionally it begins on the 8th. And sometimes it begins on the 10th. And that's because the solstice slides. It is a astro energy that is delineated by the stars and the planets each year. So this year it is indeed solstice arrives on the 21st. So that means if we step back 13 days from the 21st, we begin on the 9th. But I love that the 12 days of solstice also evoke some, of our more modern carols and things that we naturally might be drawn to. So we certainly have reference points all over, and so too will you. Create your own reference points, your own delight. We also begin with the night. And this is one of the things that I thought we would start with. And I wanted to read us a poem because we begin with the night, and I wanted to explain a little bit why. Why do we begin with the night? And what will the night be for you? And you get to decide when you create. We all have a sweet spot for creativity in our own lives. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, I don't know if I can stay up at nights. Therefore, can I create in the night? Well, maybe you can't and you don't need to, but evoke, drawing on the night, drawing on the energy of the night, I think is important. And I love this poem. So I wanted to bring us this poem to sort of stir the dark. And in fact, I'd love you to find either some black paint or some charcoal or a black pen. I have a black felt pen, my favorite flares, anything that could just be your dark matter. Maybe it's indigo blue, and just have a piece of paper and even a Post-it note, something where you can create just a dark line, a dark mark after you listen to the poem. In the morning, time when light takes hold of the sky, to make air a presence, a wash of good speaking without words. I come across the deep time, the newness, and I turn away from spinward towards the place of holding sleep, the still fallow stretches. I know there is no clearer place than this, nothing deeper than this dark matter. I walk until I become the dark air. I become the velvet depth of not yet, of ever, of before. I feel the thickening of life in me, the essence of wholeness. When we speak of that from which all arises and returns, we are describing not only below, the great abysm of creation. We are name-speaking silent, our centers into being. When we describe the great flaring that we must not miss, is the deepest silence in the midst of the motion, the emanating darkness. We must not remake a new human mistake of the recent past, the last 5 or 8,000 full circles of the earth. That is to focus on light and action at the expense of all else. Photons are not as alone as we think them, and in a way, they are not moving at all or traveling. We are. And also we are dancing in the dark. And also this, what if there are more that we can see dancing with us? What is every seeming motion when we meet dark matter? When we look at the galaxies, stars singing brightly now under the solstice coming, notice what is here. Notice the dark nights getting darker, getting longer. Feel the dark calling to you, through you, to meet this moment. And so it is, and it is so that dark matter comes. It's the solstice sings, that the dark night begins and continues and deepens, that the story unfolds when you meet each moment. And that what is held here is always yours. And so make this creative space something special. So where we'll begin today is just to create the dark mark, to honor the dark matter, to love the long night. Give yourself a moment to create, generate some juice. And this is one of the things that I want us all to consider is the subtle movement of connecting that can be so profound. Doesn't need to make much sense or take up much space. To offer a little clue to the dark matter. This is what mine looks like tonight. Just a little clue to the dark matter is all I need to kind of ignite something. You can go back and listen to that poem again. It will be read at about 12 minutes after. So any of you who are here live, you can go back to the replay and listen back to it about 10 to 12 minutes after. You can also jot down, if you listen again, a few of the words and actually scribble them into your book, whether you make your own or you choose to use the little book that I created. You know, these are examples of ways that you can create soul collage, journey circles, the journal that I created, a little book that you make yourself just out of paper or cards or an art journal. So choose whatever you want to use for your creative process. One of the things I suggest is the same size card or page every day is a wonderful way to play. And so, however that feels for you, if you did order the book from me, you might have gotten a few of the cards. So maybe you create a card every day. Maybe you create a spread every day and you just create a nice little, you know, journal out of cards that you watercolor and you cut them loosely and tether them together. And then they can make a kind of accordion book. Some years I've done teeny tiny accordion books. And some years I've done big art. So sometimes in these couple of days before you start to play, you think you want to create one way and you start to prepare. And then all of a sudden you start to shift and you realize, I want to create like I'm 5 years old. I want to create like, you know, I'm tucking something into a little stocking, or maybe you just get a notion of creating through the lens of a part of self. Or maybe you realize that you want to create prayer flags, or you want to create something bigger, bolder, something that takes up more space. Really, I wouldn't limit yourself. I would delight in whatever comes. And maybe you decide that you want to create a few different ways. Do remember that there are maybe 6 very simple creative idea videos in the learning library. And you can find more on YouTube and you can probably find more on the website. But I did cluster together just a few creative videos, and I included a video that walks you through this because some of you ordered this, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes. But my intention for creating the new art journal wasn't to say, don't create your own. It was just to offer something new and something fresh. and also delight in a new size, a square, an 8.5 or 9 by 9 square. It's kind of a new shape, a new size. Also, this idea, and let's see if I have a sample of it, that, each spread you can create like this on the spread, and you can also tuck things in the back by just putting in a pocket. And this happens to be a Ziploc baggie that you get cards in. But you can also use a square envelope or something like that. And in fact, you could put a pocket on the front, a pocket on the back. This is wonderful for journey circles, soul collage, little, other kinds of things, tools that you make, or doorway cards. So if you want to create something like that on your own book, you can absolutely do that. But the idea that this kind of a book will get fatter and fatter as you create, and then you have a spread. You have a couple of random pages, but you do have, the idea is a spread in each page. There is a page here that has two circles, one that says night and one that says light. Now, this is our theme for the solstice, isn't it? We start with the dark nights and we move towards the light. Now, if you are down under, you are moving towards the summer solstice. So you are in the light half of the year, in the longest day rather than the longest night. Those of us in the northern hemisphere, we're moving towards the winter solstice, and we're experiencing longer and longer nights till we get to the shortest day and turn our year towards the light, turn back towards the light. Those of you who are down under, you're moving towards the summer solstice, the longest day, and then you are moving towards the dark half of the year. So for all of us, all over the world, this is our theme, the night and the light. And however you come to know that, we have one page that depicts the night and the light. But some of you might want to work with journey circles and work with dark moons every night to evoke that darkness. Some of you might want to bring those kinds of circle cards onto the double pages. Some of you may want to create and speak to the night and the light every single of your 12 nights of solstice. And I call it 12 nights because we start with the night. The night is the way that the ancients in Celtic tribes, both British Isles, all across Europe, the Celtic tribes were all over Europe many, many, many moons ago, tens of thousands of years ago. Celtic tribes started the day with the night rise. And so because of my own Celtic spirituality, my own connection to ancestral wisdom, my own mythic work, I choose to start my day at the night. And so this particular invitation of our 12 nights is really a powerful way to move through a 24-hour day, because we start our activation for the first night, the second night, the third night at the beginning of a 24-hour period. And that gives us a much longer experience with how the art will impact us, how we'll move through our experience, how we invite the mythic to maybe begin as we start to drift to sleep. And so our night dreaming, our night walking, our mythic experience can be extended. And that's one of the things that I love about creative process is extending the personal myth, stepping into the story. So every time we start to make a mark, even this little dark mark that you already made, you have activated something. This can be cut out. This can be integrated into something else. It can be explored and observed. We are also evoking ancient history. And, we know very little of Druidic practice, but we do know one thing, and it is from 77 AD when it was written onto papyrus and has been translated many, many times from Pliny the Elder, who did his natural history, his great encyclopedia of the world, 77 AD. And he wrote about the practices of the Druids at solstice. And we can tap into the barest of mythic bones, is what I like to call them. The barest of bones, the few words, the few ideas, the few concepts, the few things that linger. And of course, we've seen them hundreds of times on, in the movies or depictions, or, read an author who took something from research that they did and translated it over here. But what happens when we bring our own bones, our own symbols, our own moments to a new myth? That's what I believe that we each create in the 12 nights of solstice. We take a time frame and we take the dark nights and we enact art as ritual on behalf of our own knowing. And we step into a story. And the personal myth is a very powerful tool for living. No matter what's happening, some of you may be here feeling grief, feeling lost, feeling undone, feeling separated from yourself, separated from people that you love. You may feel lonely. You may feel unsure of yourself. You may feel that you're living through, an unraveling time and a mad world. You may be feeling challenged or feeling delighted. You may feel the wonder of a time of year that you love, and you may feel depressed and sad. Your story is yours, but it's not the only story that lives within you. So you bring the story that you know. You bring the story and tell the truth to the page of where you're beginning, wherever it is. You can try, cry 1,000 tears onto the page and tell that truth. And also find something else arises each night. It's a very powerful way to play. And I personally call depth work serious play, because we do more than scratch the surface. We've dived deep. And no matter how we're coming to the work, it could be frivolous and light, playful, and generative. It could be energized and fierce and furious and filled with pain. But there is something quite profound that happens. And what I find is serious play gives me the best language for what I experience regularly. And I also find that I grow when I engage this kind of art making. And that's important to me. And even when I want to um, play and find delight, like this little book, I remember being very delightful, first light, very fast. Sometimes my nights come very, very quickly. Sometimes they come very slow. Sometimes they cluster. Sometimes I listen to the guided meditation as I create. Sometimes I listen to it and fall asleep and create later. Sometimes I listen to just a little bit and then I drift off. And sometimes I listen 2 or 3 at a time. If I've been busy and I haven't quite maybe fit in all of my nights in sequential order, I've listened to these for a long time. Sometimes I don't listen at all. Sometimes I light a candle and I trust my gut and I go for my creative and I listen later. So the maybe some of what I've shared resonates with you and you can jot down a few words. You could even take whatever paper you're using, whatever form you're using, and you could scribble a few of the words that feel important, and they could float underneath your art, and you could create right on top. So anything that you do at this point is going to be preparing your pages. And any way that that happens is going to serve you. Art making is something that will seed your dream. So I want to hear from a few of you, and I want to hear from Jane because she's one of our helpers in our forum. Jane Power, could you jump in and share a few words about your solstice experiences and what you've witnessed from others, and just help to fill in a few blanks if I missed anything?
I can't think of any blanks that you've missed, but it's lovely to be here again. I know that when I first came across JourneyPath Institute, it was through 12
Mhm.
Nights, and it was and remains to be a magical experience, a magical time that can be as much or as little as you want it to be, as you said, and it's very personal to each of us and very different to each of us, and that's the joy of it, and that's the joy of witnessing it. It's lovely to be on the other end and fly attending and be able to see everybody's process. I love that part of it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you.
beautiful. And Jane and Darcy and myself, we witness and we hold space in the forum. The forum is set up to be very simple. We have one share space for us this year. And some years we are very quiet and we have no share space. This year we have a share space, which means on your first night, you can post your art. And here's what I want to suggest. First night, second night, third night, something came, something unusual happened, my first night art, my dream, what I notice as I create, very, very simple, singular sharing. So that every night, each of us would post once and share what is happening. Some of us won't want to post. Some of us will post at the end, and some of us will stay quiet and stay in our space creating. But it is nice to have that collective community energy throughout our time together. And you can certainly introduce yourself if you want right now and just say, hi, I'm, so and so from this place, if you want to share. But it's not going to be very much of exchange, and that's not how I want to spend our time. Certainly, we moderate and we hold space because we all are committing to create a very safe space for one another. And one of the things I know about the journey work is that as we create things, very powerful things may be happening inside our life. And so we want to be witness to one another. And silent witnessing is actually the very best way to witness. So one word responses and heart emoji, which we have now in the forum, um, the just witnessing this, resonating so much with what you share, very, very subtle responses. And here's why. We don't want to step into somebody else's story, ask them an inadvertent question that makes them feel a little undone. We want to keep things very, very quiet and very receptive for continuing to receive our own messages. So the artist is the primary, and when we share with one another, we're really sort of like we're sharing in a circle, like we're at a retreat and we're holding up our art and sharing a word or two, or, maybe a minute about our experience. But there's not going to be any crosstalk. So we use that same kind of an intention here in this sacred circle because we're creating the kind of safety in art making that allows for the journey to continue to guide you. Many of us will be meeting guides, maybe animals, others, as we step onto the path each night. There's a guided meditation that will guide you, lead you, or hold you. Some of us do create through the imaginal, through our mind's eye, quite extraordinary experiences as we engage in drum work or voice generated guided meditation using more of a shamanic practitioner approach. It's called sonic driving. What a horrible word. A horrible word created by the great late Michael Harner, who was a shamanic practitioner. But I just don't love that word. Sonic driving is just the idea that there's a rhythmic energy that's intending to carry you beyond cognitively aware state. And beyond the cognitively aware state is the language I use for being sort of taken up and out and into the imaginal. I think of it much more sort of upwards than downwards. Even if we travel into the inner realm or the lower realm, we're traveling up and out of ourselves into a higher conscious state, a dreaming state, a traveling state. So there is drum that you can hear below my voice, and there is a voice, but you don't even need to pay attention, and you can certainly travel your own way. And I really encourage you to explore what it feels like to journey, because it can be quite exciting to have that experience. So the journey is something that will um, come to you and move you every day in the different ways that this traveling will happen. And I'd love you to just take the opportunity to look through, um, what I set up for you in terms of your next steps. You have pages on the website, the classroom, and we are really wanting you to just experience every day your way. So that's enough. This is going to be in the forum for you to listen to again. And I really want to thank you for being here. You're going to have your first night delivered to you via email. So you'll get a notice when it comes, but you can also come back to the forum and find it. And I just want to thank you for being here. Create your way, use the materials that are already in the classroom to get some ideas. There's nothing you can do wrong. Everything is here for you. And there's some delightful ways to create your art and make marks and really, really find sort of the way that this becomes soul work for you during the solstice. Because there is something coming with these 12 days that is all yours. I don't want to answer questions because I don't want to get into a long dialogue. There's enough in the forum for each of you to create with, or maybe to listen back to some of what I shared here. But I think the best thing you could do is create a shape, decide on, cards or book, rounds or rectangles, squares, or, 2-inch squares or 20-inch squares. I don't know what you're going to choose. Maybe you go around the house and you choose a few objects that feel important to you and you create an altar space for your first night. There's so many things that I think you can find within what delights you to start to create the shape of your experience. Most of us will draw on a candle. Most of us will create a light for each night. And maybe that's the same candle, the same box of matches, the same time frame. These little rituals and rhythms are just a wonderful way to explore your story. And there's certainly plenty written in the forum now. You have all of those pages, sort of preliminary pages waiting, and they outline different ways you can explore this offering. We are many, many, many thousands of people who have done this over the years. So we have a lot of energy in our circle that's not just from this year, it's from many years. And I think that's a very exciting experience as well. Some of you are going to find something really very moving and touching in a night or 3 nights or 5 nights or all 12 nights. And sometimes I say to myself, one night is enough. One extraordinary night is enough. And so if you find that maybe you have a pocket of wonder, and then a few fallow nights or quiet nights, that you don't judge yourself, that you create, that so much happened in one night that you just create a nest for it and keep it safe and travel with it again and again. So I think that this is a wonderful way to play. I can't wait to begin. I always do parallel process with everybody, and I never quite know what I'm going to create on as I begin, but I probably will do at least the new book because I haven't used it yet either, and I want to. And it is available, by the way, on Amazon. We're almost worldwide, anywhere Amazon delivers. So you can get it in 2 days. So if you did one, it's only $8.95. I kept it like so low that anybody could get it. Um, I do have some at home, but it'll take longer to get it now. So it's easier for everybody to get it where you live. Also, if you live overseas, away from the United States, it's very expensive to ship. So it's easier. You can get it in Australia. You can get it in Europe. You can get it all over. Um, but you don't need it. It's just there for you if you want it. I'd love you to try it, but absolutely create any way you want to and meet each moment with joy, wonder, trust, and self-love. Because that's the most important part of this journey is to delight yourself. Spend 10 minutes listening and 20 minutes creating. Move a few objects around, just create that little sort of exchange and see what happens. And I'll see you all on the forum when we're connecting. Bye, everybody. Sending love. Thank you for being here. I'll see you all soon.